So when I was in high school, if you've heard my story, I grew up going to church. So I was actively involved in my church's youth group. I had a group of friends that I went to church with. We all knew the right answers. We all studied the right things. But even though I knew all the answers to these things and I would call myself a Christian, in a lot of ways I didn't live my life in a way, or in a lot of ways I didn't live a life that showed that I was a Christian, that showed that Jesus had transformed my life and had really made a lasting impact on me. And I think that's something that a lot of us go through. You know, if you've been at Sandals Youth for a long time, you know the answers to the things to say, you've been around, you've been to camp, you've done all the experiences, and you know what it means to follow Jesus. But at the same time, some of those things become routine, they become second nature. You start to not think about them as much and tend to just kind of lean into whatever your friends are doing, culture's doing, whatever society is saying. And I think that offers us a chance to really get to know Jesus deeper. As we're starting this new year, as Sandals Church as a whole is going through the book of Matthew, I kind of sat down and started writing through like, okay, what does it look like for us online? And I landed on this, I take that back. I was actually very inspired by something Pastor Fredo said in his message earlier this year, referencing the 3 times Jesus says the Son of Man came to blank. I think these are very important things to pay attention to because they're used so sparingly, but used with a lot of intention. As we continue to grow in our faith and navigate what it means to follow Jesus, it's very important to look at the words that he said, but also the way he lived his life and the way that he carried out interacting with people in ancient Israel, the ancient Middle East, and things like that. So for today, I want to take a look at the Son of Man came statement. And the first one we find in Luke chapter 19, verses 1 through 10. So if you have your Bible, I encourage you to take it out. I have my phone because I'm going on a nice little walk around Hunter Park right now. But in Luke 19, let me switch my translation. There we go. In Luke 19, we start in verse 1 saying, Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was the chief tax collector in the region. He had become very rich. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd, so he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass that way. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Zacchaeus, he said, "Quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today." This is a classic story in case you didn't know. This is one that I knew growing up in church. You've probably heard this in kids ministry if you have been at a church for any significant amount of time. Verse 6, Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy. But the people were displeased. "He has gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner," they grumbled. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, "I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord, and if I have cheated people of their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much." And this is where it gets important. Jesus responded, "Salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who were lost." Now, there's a whole lot of cultural implications about Zacchaeus. He was working as a tax collector, taxing the people of Israel for the Roman government, which was a huge no, you're dissing your own people, setting them up for the oppressor, all those kinds of things. So the fact that Jesus was hanging out with this man is a huge cultural shock. It was this guy, like I said, this guy's a sinner, he's hurting us, all these things. Why would you associate with this person? And this is where we see kind of one side of Jesus' mission. He came to this earth to seek out the people that were far from God and save them, offer his life, spend time with them, all those kinds of things. He says the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. Jesus isn't hiding away, just waiting for something to change. He's going out and seeking the people that need the healing love of Jesus. But one thing that struck me with this statement and this story as a whole is how quickly the religious people of Israel start complaining and grumbling and getting upset over the fact that Jesus is spending time with this person. It says the Pharisees, the religious elites, think the top dog of your church, the top leader, scholar, bishop, whatever phrase you want to use to describe the person that's at the very top of your religious organization. These are the Pharisees. They knew all the right answers. They lived, by the law, did everything to the T, to the dot, all that kind of good stuff. And you would think that the people that know all the laws and know how to do these things and know how difficult it is to keep all of those laws would be gracious to the ones that are sinners, that are far from God, all those kinds of things. But they're one of the biggest complainers and point the finger at Jesus for living this way. And I think while there are some of us that can identify with Zacchaeus of being lost and far from God, I think a lot of us tend to fall into the Pharisee side of things. I think a lot of us can, myself especially, working at a church, can say, God, look, I've done this, this, and this. I've read my Bible. I prayed with this person. I went to youth group on Wednesday. I went to church on Sunday. I'm doing all these things. And while those things are good, you could still be missing Jesus in that. So as we navigate what it means to follow Jesus, start studying his words, like, yes, okay, care for all of these people, care for the rich, or care for the poor, care for the needy, be in community with other believers. All those things are good, but when it becomes more about your actions, you start to miss Jesus seeking and saving the lost. And as I'm kind of thinking through this and was writing through this sermon, the Lord kind of put on my heart that from the very beginning, we were all a part of Jesus' mission. From the very beginning, we were all lost. Even if you've been around these spaces for a long time, until you start to recognize the life, love, and sacrifice of Jesus, you can be separated from him. But there's comfort and truth in knowing that while we are lost, while we are separated, Jesus is still seeking after you. Jesus is still coming for the ones that need him the most, if we're willing to let them in. I had another verse written down. I need to look at my notes real quick, but I had another verse written down as I was thinking through this idea of, okay, if we all know that Jesus is seeking after the lost and wants to save them, it's showing us that at the core of it, Jesus wants a relationship with you. He wants some kind of communication. I don't know, I can't think of a better word than relationship right now. But it reminds me, in Matthew 9, verse 12, it says, when Jesus heard this, he said, healthy people do not need a doctor, sick people do. And while some of us might be healthier than others at certain points, whether it be physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, there's an understanding that I have come to know at 31, being much older than a lot of you, that even when we are healthy, there's still something that we need to be healed from. There's still a need or desire to be close to Jesus in that. Because when you're healthy, if you fall back into unhealthy practices, you're gonna get sick again. If I'm healthy, I'm eating good food, I'm taking care of myself, exercising, great. I'm living a healthy life. But as soon as I start eating a bunch of sugar, a bunch of soda, processed foods, not exercising, not taking care of myself, I will become sick again. So knowing that Jesus is seeking after us and is here for the sick, we can find that healing in Jesus. We can come alongside Jesus in that mission to seek after those who are lost and also offer a place of healing for the ones that need it. So as we continue going into the book of Matthew and spend the next kind of couple weeks paying attention to Jesus' words, how he lived, and what he did in his time on earth, my hope and encouragement for everyone that's watching this, everyone Sandals Church Youth, everyone Sandals Church Youth online, take some intentional moments and intentional time in prayer, really asking God, okay, what is the healing I need in this time? What is the healing that I need to go through? Whether I've been at church for a long time or I'm just now stepping foot into this, and really allow God to speak to some of those things that in your life that may need to change. And then I would also encourage you to write them down. Journal some of the things that you are thinking and hearing and praying through for your records to know, like, okay, 6 months from now, I can look where I started and I can see where God moved in that. And then lastly, as you're wrapping this time up, I want you guys to be thinking through who in your life, who is one person in your life that you can start sharing these things with. Whether it be a close friend, a teacher, a parent, a mentor, a counselor, who is someone that you can trust to help navigate these healing seasons? Who is someone that can hold you accountable to some of the healing that you can do? And who is someone that is ultimately, at the end of the day, going to point you back to Jesus and the life that He has for you? I love you, SCY. If you want to connect with me more, you want to chat through some of these things, of course, we have our Discord. There's a description and a link for that. Follow us on the social media channels. I'm trying to do more to help you guys and connect in those spaces, create fun and engaging, but also thought-provoking content. I love you guys. I'm praying for you. We'll see you next time.